Welcome back. Now we answer questions we've received from you, our viewers. If you have a question, visit our website, QuranSpeaks.com. Dr. Shabir, the question is, why would Allah sicken and kill all those Muslims in Pakistan with the floods? Shouldn't Allah be protecting his believers? Why did he do this? And why did he not save them or help them? Please help me understand. You can hear the appeal in the person's voice.
Yeah,
I really want to.
Yeah, I mean, theodicy, the what is called the problem of evil. This has been, something that has plagued believers throughout time, and philosophers have thought about this, like, why does evil happen in the world? What is the source of this evil? Is it God? Is it some other force? Now, Muslim theology says that, well, everything comes from God, whether it is good or evil. It all originates by, God is in control of everything, but some of the things we don't attribute the evil to God directly. But we might say, okay, God created certain systems, certain patterns, certain creatures, and these systems, the patterns, the creatures may generate some ill effects. It's almost like you're producing something good, but there is some side effect from that. And then the decision is like, do you go ahead and produce what is good? I mean, you might invent a great vaccine, but it has some side effects. Maybe some people even suffers some harms from the vaccine, but still you weigh the pros and cons and you say, okay, overall, it's better to have the vaccine but not have it, even though it has some negative side effects. So God is almost like this. And you might think, okay, well, he's all powerful. He can do whatever he wants. So he could create the thing that doesn't have any side effects, right? But it depends on what you're working with. Like if God wants to do that in a perfect world, yes, he can do it in a perfect way. But if you're working with imperfect materials, and that's your plan, to work with imperfect materials, well then there are going to be side effects. Like if you want to create a beautiful statue out of rock, then you're going to have to work with hammer and chisel. You're going to be chiseling away. You're going to be breaking. It's going to be, you're going to have some wasted pieces. That's just the nature of it. So when God created this system of life, with its the cause and effect in the physical sense, then it's naturally going to give rise to imperfect weather systems, or we should say weather systems with these kinds of negative effects like floods, typhoons, hurricanes, the whole system of the earth, the way in which the earth operates. And the way in which its topsoil is needed to be fertile, it has to come from the depths of the earth. So the only way you're going to get that is through an earthquake. So there are certain things which are built into the system as necessary effects. And yes, God could have made it differently if he wanted to, but he makes it the way he has made it for its overall benefit. And you might say, well, okay, but couldn't have been improved? Well, yes, but that improvement is not in our world. It's in some other world. Maybe, we shouldn't think of our world as the only one, and the life that we experience is the only possible life. If there's an improvement to be made, God has made it, but it's in some other plane of existence, and we're not aware of that.
But, Dr. Shabir, sometimes someone might look at the situation and say, well, why is God punishing this particular group of people, right? Like, is it purposeful?
Yeah. So before I answer this, I want to recall that your original question was like, why the believers? Because
the Muslims in Pakistan,
so let's say we're going to put on hold the idea of some particular person or people, and now let's think about believers more generally. So there are actually narratives in our tradition that say that God might actually test the believers more than he might test some others. Now, we can see some way of understanding this. Like, let's say you're going through your school years. Your tests in high school are going to be different from your tests in grade school. They're going to be higher level tests. And tests in universities are going to be at a higher level still. Not everybody can pass the university test, but many more can pass the grade school test. So we understand from this kind of scenario that God may be testing people in general at a very basic level, but as one is rising in degrees, getting closer and closer to God, one is actually being tested at a higher and higher level. So this is not unusual, it's not unreal. Now, of course, the test here is slightly different in that we're talking now about punishment or, severe inconvenience. So we might want to know, does it have to be so severe? So it's a combination of a number of factors. One is that I think the basic way is that we can understand it if we look at it from the one direction going outward rather than to think like of the why. We can say, okay, God has a great balancing act to perform. He has to listen to the prayers of all people. Some people are praying for rain. Some people are praying for sunshine. So
At
how
the same
much rain?
time.
Yeah, at the same time. So how much rain, how much sunshine, when, and on whose party, and whatever, whose picnic is going to rain on. God has to do all of these balancing acts. So there are going to be hurricanes, there are going to be tornadoes, there are going to be floods, there are going to be all of these natural disasters. God is balancing all of these things, if, when, where, and to what extent. Now, sometimes they produce good effects. So the believer may rise higher in rank by being patient in the face of all of this evil. So what looks bad to us is actually good for the believer, because the believer will experience all of the rewards for that in the life hereafter. And for Muslims, this is not the end of life. This is just a passing phase. And the real life is the life hereafter. So that's where it really matters. And since what looks bad here actually produces good effects for the believer in the next life, this is overall something good. Now, why would God be picking some particular people for this kind of punishment, which was your next question? Well, I wouldn't put it in this way that God is necessarily picking particular people. Maybe he does that at certain times, but mostly it looks like a lot of things are happening in a random way, but within the overall control of God. So he created a system which will include some random elements, and it's much of these random elements that we're noticing that are afflicting people in negative ways. And which we reel from in horror. We ask God to not afflict anyone, but to give us all ease and comfort and protect the world and all of its living creatures.
Thank you, Dr. Shabir, for offering that insightful answer to what is a very difficult question.
You're welcome. Our videos reach people all over the world. We hope you will seize the opportunity to share in the reward from God. Please support us today.